Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking one of the most fascinating, high-stakes food trade corridors in the entire world. We're talking about a massive, multi-million-dollar supply chain that literally connects farms in South Asia straight to the plates of millions in the Middle East. It's a B2B case study on the Saudi-Pakistani rice trade. By the end of this, you're going to see exactly how logistics, corporate trust, and some seriously technical grain specs all come together to feed a nation. It's an absolute masterclass in global supply chain strategy. Okay, let's dive into this. Look at that number, 0. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, but Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest rice importing countries on the planet, yet their own local rice production is exactly 0. They depend entirely on imports just to survive. And yet, if you look at the Saudi food landscape, rice is literally everywhere. It is the undeniable foundational staple of the entire country's diet. To really wrap your head around the scale here, you have to consider this massive daily consumption. We're talking traditional dishes like kabsa, mandi, bukhari, and variations of jarish. These are being whipped up in household kitchens and luxury hotels alike every single day. You've got a massive domestic population combined with a huge expatriate workforce, which sets an incredibly high baseline for demand. And that demand doesn't just sit flat, oh no, it spikes through the roof during key religious and cultural periods, specifically Ramadan, Hajj, and Umrah, when millions of extra people enter the country and need, you guessed it, daily meals. So this brings us to a monumental business and logistical challenge. How does a nation with absolutely no rice fields feed millions of people every single day without fail? I mean, when your domestic output is 0, your import strategy, your supply chain reliability, and your vendor selection aren't just, matters of preference. They are literal matters of absolute national food security. So who exactly steps up to fill this massive void?
Section 1. The dominant player, Pakistan.
While Saudi Arabia does import from other agricultural heavyweights like India, Thailand, and Vietnam, Pakistan has really locked in its status as the authoritative solution and the leading exporter of premium basmati rice to the kingdom. They capture this premium segment day in and day out. And this brilliantly illustrates that we aren't just talking about taste here, we're talking about highly specific B2B technical grain qualities. For instance, the Saudi market demands a long grain structure with high elongation after cooking, meaning the grain literally expands and looks amazing on the plate. It needs a strong, natural aroma and a rich flavor that culturally aligns perfectly with Saudi cuisine. And crucially, the cooked texture has to be fluffy and deliver a totally non-sticky performance. The grains have to remain separate, which is an absolute must for dishes like kabsa and mandi. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is Pakistan's highly strategic approach. They haven't just showed up with one product. No, they've tailored specific rice varieties for every single segment of the Saudi economy. Think of it like a toolkit. 1121 Basmati, that's your premium extra long grain for restaurants and retail. Super Basmati is the traditional, super aromatic choice for authentic home cooking. Then you've got 1121 Golden Sella, which is explicitly engineered for catering and bulk cooking. And finally, 1121 Steam Basmati, the premium white rice prioritized by luxury hotels and high-end dining for its perfect presentation. They literally have a precise tool for every single job.
Section 2. Built for heavy catering.
That level of specialization we just talked about, it's incredibly important because the Saudi market is about way more than just home kitchens. We're talking about mega catering engines driving unbelievable bulk volume. Saudi Arabia actually operates one of the biggest catering industries in the entire Middle East. You've got Hajj and Umrah catering feeding millions of pilgrims all at once, plus massive corporate food services, high-volume airline catering, and enormous labor camps feeding expatriate workers every single day. These massive operations require just staggering bulk volume. But more importantly, they demand absolute cooking reliability. I mean, you really cannot afford to serve a failed, mushy batch of food when you're staring down 10,000 hungry pilgrims. Let's compare a standard kitchen setup to the extreme demands of bulk catering. In your typical household kitchen, the main goal is immediate taste and aroma, right? But in commercial bulk catering, the structural demands placed on the grain itself are just extreme. You need perfect grain separation when you're cooking in these giant vats. You need total cooking stability, so if it's overcooked by a few minutes, it doesn't just turn into a pot of mush. And perhaps the biggest deal of all, you need a long holding time. The rice has to keep its texture, its warmth, and its visual appeal for hours sitting under heat lamps or bouncing around in transport without degrading. And this is where the ultimate B2B powerhouse comes into play: golden Sella 1121. This specific variety is perfectly engineered to solve those exact bulk catering challenges we just went over. It is highly prized across the entire Saudi food service industry, precisely because of its firm texture, its incredibly long holding time, and its extreme cooking stability. Imagine a massive catering company bidding on a contract to feed a huge labor camp or an airline. Golden Sella 1121 is the reliable, totally risk-free asset they depend on to execute that contract flawlessly. It's a real game changer. Section 3. A rock-solid trade relationship. Of course, having a great product is really only half the battle in international business. Let's move to and see how this builds into an unstoppable trade pipeline. It basically breaks down into 3 key steps. Step 1. Established import channels. These are built on trust-based, long-term corporate relationships between Pakistani exporters and Saudi buyers. Step 2 is strong logistics. The shipping routes via the GCC ports are incredibly reliable, meaning the product moves from a mill in Pakistan to a warehouse in Saudi Arabia with highly predictable efficiency. And step 3, stable demand and supply cycles. Saudi Arabia provides a consistent, high-volume market, and Pakistan provides a rock-solid export supply chain. It's pretty much a perfect synergy. So from a purely operational standpoint, there are some very distinct reasons why Saudi importers consistently choose Pakistani suppliers over the competition. Sure, the consistent green quality and the variety of grades play a huge part. But look at the business side of things. We're talking competitive pricing, an incredibly strong export documentation system, which is an absolute lifesaver because it prevents delays at customs, highly reliable shipment schedules, and the ability to easily handle flexible bulk orders. These operational perks just make export operations smoother and vastly more reliable for the large Saudi distributors. Section 4, the future outlook. Okay, so we've looked at the product, we've mapped out the logistics, and we understand the current demand. Now let's pivot to the future financial and volume projections. So the crucial point is that this market is not just stable, it is actively accelerating. The growth drivers here are massive. You've got ongoing, rapid demographic growth within the kingdom. You've got a huge expansion happening in the hospitality sector, with new luxury hotels and restaurants popping up constantly. There's a rising overall demand for premium food products, and, critically, there is a major strategic push to increase the capacity for Hajj and Umrah pilgrims, which directly translates to exponentially higher catering needs. Every single one of these factors basically guarantees long-term stability and massive growth for Pakistani rice exporters. I want to leave you with this thought to consider. With zero local production and an exploding hospitality sector, how high will the ceiling go for the Pakistani Basmati trade corridor? Seriously, think about that. This isn't just a basic agricultural export. It is a highly lucrative, rapidly scaling investment opportunity rooted in a deeply established trade partnership. It's essentially the perfect example of B2B market fit on a global scale. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and definitely keep an eye on this fascinating market.